had plenty of reasons to become mean and hateful and vindictive. But when he looked around at his life, he had even more reasons to be grateful to Almighty God for all of his blessings. So look at this. We will all land in the pit sometimes in life. Doesn't matter who you are, we all gonna land in the pit sometime. Doesn't matter how cute you are or how cute you think you are. Doesn't matter how smart you are or how smart you think you are. Doesn't matter how slick you are or how slick you think you are. We will all land in the pit sometimes in life. If I had some real people in this place on the first Sunday in November, some real people would have to say, Pastor, I have been in the pit. Matter of fact, a few real people who have nothing to lose would say, Pastor, I'm in the pit right now. What you talking about? The question that we have to answer is, will you make it a pitfall or will you make it a pit stop? See, let me tell you something. Let me help somebody. A pitfall is something that catches you unexpectedly and messes you up. Anybody here ever had a pitfall? It throws you out of your rhythm, and some people never recover from a pitfall. Hey, you know what? You can come up limping from a pitfall. You can come up not walking the same after you have been falling into a pitfall. A pitfall is when someone you love deeply and care about dies suddenly and you cannot catch your breath from it. A pitfall is when you're fired from a job you like and need due to circumstances beyond your control. A pitfall is when the person you shared your life with and you come to the painful place of divorce or the relationship end. A pitfall is going to the doctor for a routine checkup and finding out that your day is going to be anything but routine. Life is full of pitfalls. I wish I had some real people in here, because some real people would have to say, Pastor, life is full of pitfalls. But a pit stop, now that's something different. A pit stop is when a race car pulls over to get some gas and some new tire and a few minutes of rest before getting back out onto the racetrack of life. That means that every pit doesn't have to be a pitfall. Sometimes you can use your pit as a pit stop. And can I tell you the difference between a pitfall and a pit stop? The difference between a pitfall and a pit stop is between your ears. You decide whether or not pretty. No matter if you got good hair. It don't matter if you tall. It don't matter if you got a nice figure. It don't matter if you went to college. You can have a PhD, a GED, or no D. Everybody gonna land in the pit sometime. You have to decide what's your pit gonna be. A pitfall or a pit stop. That's what Joseph did. That's why he kept moving. That's why he kept going forward and higher. That's why he was able to look around his life and instead of hating his brothers, he was able to be too grateful to be hateful. And I want to lift up quickly these three reasons why you and I should be too grateful to be hateful that this text teaches us. When we experience, like Joseph, the difficulties of life. First of all, I'm too grateful to be hateful because when I experience the pits of life, I know that God is preparing me for something. God is preparing me for something. Pits prepare us. So I'm grateful for preparation. Well, watch this. God was in the process of elevating Joseph. God was giving Joseph great opportunity and great responsibility. And everything that Joseph went through along the way was just preparing him for the place that God was taking him. Haven't you ever had that feeling after you went through something difficult? You look back on it and you said, I'm glad I went through it. Because I see now that God was preparing me for something greater. And if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't be ready for this opportunity. See, I'm too grateful to be hateful because even when I'm going through the most difficult challenges in my life, what I understand is that God is preparing me for something greater. And just think about how empowering that is, church. Look at this. It takes all of the power out of the hands of the people who may have mistreated you. Can I just preach the text for a little while? In Genesis chapter 45, Joseph is talking to his brothers, and in verse 5, 7, and 8, he tells them, it is not you who sent me here, but God. He tells them the same thing 3 times within 4 verses. That they are not the reason he ended up in Egypt. In other words, it ain't no point in you trying to take credit for my good fortune. He said, it was the favor of God on his life. Look at what he tells them. He said, you did not send me here, but God did, so that I could save your lives. In other words, Joseph takes all the power away from them. Can I tell you, you get this? Look, a hateful attitude gives power to the people or situations or circumstances in your life that have made you hateful in the first place. I'm going to say it again. I wish I had it written down, church, but because I don't, I'll just repeat myself. A hateful attitude gives power to the people or situation or circumstances that made you hateful in the first place. But when you are too grateful to be hateful, when you are grateful to God for all of his blessings, more than you are mad at somebody about something, that it takes all the power away from them and gives all of the glory to God. Why are you going to let somebody have that much power in your life that they can make your whole disposition sour, that they can turn you into a sourpuss Christian? Don't you know that's an oxymoron, a Christian with a bad attitude? How you a Christian and you got a bad attitude? How you a follower of Jesus and you walking around mad at somebody with your mouth twisted up? Who is even worth all of that to make you shrivel up and become so small and guarded and mean? Who's worth giving all God preserved him. He preserved him. He preserved him. Stay with me. I'm coming to something. I'm coming to something. Watch this. It says in chapter 45, y'all don't mind if I preach the text this morning. In chapter 45, verse 5, Joseph says, God sent me before you to preserve life. Then he says it again, verse 7, God sent me to preserve a posterity for you. To preserve, that means to make something last. Now there's three basic ways that you can preserve something. The first way to preserve something is that you put it inside of something that will keep it fresh. Right? You put it in a container that keeps the air out. Right? That's one way to preserve something. The next way to preserve something is to put it in the freezer. Right? You put it in the freezer and it becomes frozen and it will stay there in the state that it's in, but just frozen. But there's another way to preserve something, and that's you don't put it into a container, nor do you put it into the freezer, but you put something inside of it that preserves it. You put something into the thing that you're preserving to make it last longer. I believe they call that a preservative. I wish I had somebody in this place who knew what I was talking about. That it was not the pit that preserved Joseph. That it was not the prison that preserved Joseph. That it was not even the palace that preserved Joseph. It was that God had put something on the inside of Joseph that kept him going in spite of the circumstances that he was in. I wish I had somebody here today who's been through hell and lived to tell about it, who's come up the rough side of the mountain and is able to say, but I'm still here, baby. Who's had a hard way to go in life and is able to testify. Life for me was not a crystal stair, but I'm still standing. But it wasn't from my own strength, but it was because God put something on the inside that preserved you and kept you going. That's what Jesus was talking about to his disciples. He said, I want you to go and wait for the Holy Ghost to come, not just upon you. He's not just going to dwell with you, but he's going to live on the inside of you, and he will keep you going when you feel like giving up. He will keep you going when you feel like the world is against you. He'll keep you going when your back is against the wall. I can hope for you to say it like there's something on the inside. What is on the outside? Oh, what a change in my life. I wish I had somebody in this place who could shout right now. I'm too grateful to be hateful because God gave me something inside to keep me going, to keep me holding on, to keep me pressing forward. Yeah! He preserved me. Just like God preserved Joseph, God has preserved you and I today. You should have given up on yourself, but God preserved you. Those streets should have taken you out of here, but God preserved you. Yeah, those horrible things you went through as a child, they should have ended you, but God preserved you. Is there anybody here who can shout, I'm just too grateful to be hateful because God preserved me? Because not only has God prepared me, and not only has God preserved me, but I'm too grateful to be hateful Because even through all my pits, God is positioning me to be his instrument. Watch this. It's what the text says. Positioning is all about being in the right place at the right time. I was listening to the announcers talk about certain football teams, offense. When they said that the problem that offense creates for you is that if you just make one mistake and they catch you out of position, then on just one play, they'll go all the way down the field. And great things happen when we're in position. But terrible things happen when we're out. Somebody here today knows about being out of position. And how bad it can be when you're not. But Joseph said he was positioning me. Look what he said. I almost missed this. Watch this. I almost missed it myself. Chapter 45, verse 8. He says, so it was not you who sent me here, but God. I almost missed it. I almost missed it. It was not you who sent me here, but God. So the key word in that sentence for our purpose here is the word here. See, here is very specific. Here means a specific place or placement. Here is not just anywhere. And here is certainly not everywhere. Joseph says, God sent me here. Can I tell you something? There are some blessings that you are only qualified to receive when you allow God to bring you to your here. See, there are some things that God will only allow you to do, use you to do, once he has put you in your here. See, there are some people who you're only going to be able to help after God has put you in position. There's some people that God is only going to allow you to reach after you have allowed God to put you in position. That there are some situations that God is only going to use you to fix after God has put you in position. And look, watch this. Sometimes we get frustrated and mad and hateful because we feel like there are things that are beyond our reach. And the reason they're beyond our reach is because we're out of position. Have you ever said that? I wish I was in a position to help with that situation, but I'm just not in a position. So here, Joseph, he had to go through the pit and because God was putting him in position. Have you ever asked yourself, how did I get here? Maybe it was because God was positioning you to be an instrument of blessing in somebody else's life. Is there